So, over the past month, our church leadership has been trying to get as much input as possible as we've considered many different options as what's best for us as we move forward in these uncharted waters. We've looked at what other churches are doing in our country, but in our region. Input from the surveys from many of you who filled them out. Very significant, very helpful. Conversations with people from within our congregation, trying to understand where different ones of us within this community are at. In so many different places, we've been trying to stay up to speed on what feel like frequently changing state mandates and current safety protocols and recommendations. All of that kind of held before God, with our ultimate desire being, what are you saying, God? And how do we discern what is the next best step for us in terms of what Sunday mornings look like? And trying to sense, God, where are you speaking, even through those other places of input? So with all those pieces considered, here's some of where we're going this fall related to Sunday morning. So the first thing I want to say is we're not going to be returning to our building for public meetings on a Sunday morning capacity. So as we've looked into this, and we have fairly extensively, we've discovered that the effort required to observe and enforce the state mandates around masks, distancing, proper ventilation, disinfecting, and all that goes into that, and a number of other factors, that it would actually significantly undercut what makes gathering together the blessing that it is. And some of the key aspects of Sunday mornings that relate to worshiping Jesus, that it'd actually be pretty challenging to see that happen for us in this season ahead. Especially, this would be quite an arduous experience for parents related to Antioch Kids and some sort of a kids' church offering, because in any way that we've known it, it's simply not possible in this season. Also, we recognize that there's a lot of adults in our congregation that just don't feel safe or ready yet for different health reasons to gather in indoor spaces yet. So that, coupled with a number of other pieces, led us to say, okay, that's not going to be the best option, that at least we're discerning as we move forward. So, but what are we going to be doing? So for the next few weeks, we're going to be continuing on this Zoom space, at least through September 20th. But then sometime around there or soon after that, we're working on some technological pieces. But we're going to be migrating from Zoom to YouTube for our Sunday service. And our Sunday service, it's going to be 60 minutes or less each week, and it's going to involve primarily more pre-recorded elements rather than a live Zoom call like what we've been doing. You'll find this on our YouTube channel, and we'll obviously be sharing a lot more details about that in the days and weeks ahead. So what we've seemed to discover is that Zoom works best when there's a need for live interaction, and a lot of it, a lot of interaction from person to person, conversation, and so based on feedback, in part from the surveys, but as well as just the discernment of us as leaders, we've realized that in this season, our Sunday mornings are primarily focused on creating a space for people to worship and engage with God's word. So to simplify, worship and God's word, worshiping Jesus and getting in God's word. And so we want to use a technology that's going to better facilitate a meaningful time of worship for people. And obviously, worship is broad. Worship is every moment can be all of life. And so, but in this capacity of an expression of worship that we have on Sunday mornings, we want to create a space for that that's going to even better facilitate that in your lives, and potentially with your families or households where you live. but also to create a space where you can engage with God's word in an accessible, helpful, and hopefully in this season, transformative way. Um, Also, this shift will hopefully deliver a shorter, more a family friendlier Sunday morning experience. So let me give you an example from our own lives. So there's moments here and there when our family of four is able to engage in the worship time in particular on Zoom together. However, because Zoom doesn't have the ability to be paused and then restarted, there hasn't been a single Sunday morning service since March that Jesse and I, and then even with our kids, but even just Jesse and I, we haven't been able to fully experience a Sunday morning together since before March. And from what we've heard, that's the case with a number of other folks as well. However, if we had an option to press pause when our attention needs to go elsewhere, it wouldn't force our family to have to kind of break up on Sunday mornings, but it would allow us to have potentially a more unified experience as we worship and as we engage with a message and worshiping Jesus. And part of the technological shift, we also want to create a space where if it means adjusting a time on your family schedule or schedule with your life, and this isn't just about families, but the approach we want to take is one where it could be much more easily followed up with at a later time. And we want to be able to engage as many people in our community as possible, not just those who are able to tune in right at 10 o'clock for a Zoom service. So it'll be available and accessible for people to engage with in a much better way than these Zoom spaces allow after the fact and even during the week. We'll continue to use Zoom for prayer before the service, so that's going to continue to happen. So if you're going, man, I am craving the dynamic of seeing at least a few other faces on some tiles, to interact with people on Sunday mornings, get involved in that prayer. That's still going to be happening, and that's still going to be on Zoom. We're also working on a plan to have weekly connection groups that follow each Sunday morning service. We've done breakout groups here and there, but our desire is to actually have weekly groups for anybody who's saying, I want to jump on right at the tail end of the worship time, the worship service, and connect with some people. And so we're working on a plan for that to be in place on a weekly basis, so that those who are looking for that more personal connection can get it. Because while a desire for Sunday mornings, we've heard and discerned and have a sense of worship in this season, a foundation on God's word really is significant. Not surprisingly, we also heard from many in these surveys and have heard, and even as staff and leaders have experienced ourselves, a sense of feeling disconnected, isolated, and really just needing support in our relationships in this season. And so with that, we're wanting to put a real focus on our intentional community offerings as we go into this fall. Even the staff and key leaders, there's a certain amount of bandwidth that we all have, and so we've said we really feel the Lord's leading to be engaging and focused in the relationship, the community offerings, and that part of who we are as a church. Want to mention one other piece, and then I have a few more updates. I know, again, long, but almost done. You guys are doing great. For announcements and updates like this is a lot to listen to and to stare at a screen for and to engage with. And it doesn't always best facilitate, deeply engaging worship of Jesus either. And so part of what we're going to be trying to do is put more of our updates, announcements, and communication uh, in our weekly email. And especially, we're going to want to utilize videos even more so that I could do this whole thing I just did, put it on YouTube, and get it out to you as a community. So you can watch it rather than have to wrangle your kids or just whatever. You can engage with it in a time that works the best for you. So I want to encourage you, stay tuned to those newsletters. We're doing our best to do them well in a way that's helpful for all of you, for our church community. And if they are, in your spam or your often neglected promotions tab on Gmail, you can slide it over really quick. I'm not sure if you're aware of that, and be able to see it more regularly. No pressure. You don't have to look at it. Just letting you know that a decent amount of our updates that have typically been on Sunday mornings are going to be going a bit more into midweek and the newsletter communication. So one of the things we're going to try, because of this desire for being around other people, is we're going to attempt to utilize the New England fall weather to have at least one, hopefully more, but worship times together for those who are comfortable with that are outdoor, that have appropriate kind of physical distancing, and yeah. So our hope, and you can pray for this actually. Our hope is that next Sunday afternoon, on September 6th, that we'll have our first outdoor worship gathering. The part you can pray for is that we're still trying to find a space and nail down the location that will allow for this and that will be a good fit for us to be able to do this. A bunch of people from within our community here who are working hard to pull this off and are excited about trying to create some other spaces where we can worship Jesus and get to see each other and be with each other in that space. So stay tuned for more information about that. Our goal is to have the whole package, all the details ready for you this week in the newsletter so that we can do that next weekend. There's a book group happening, just a one-off conversation for any of you that have been reading Healing Racial Trauma. And that's going to be happening tomorrow night at the Ma residence, and information just got posted for that. So I'll direct you to the chat box there. And let's see, coming out of our costly unity conversations this summer, there are several men and women from our community who are available to talk, listen, and pray with any of you if you have any just need to process what's going on with ongoing racial conflict within our country and our world, in our lives, and just how that's impacting you personally. So if you want to email Christopher, his email address is already in the chat. He'll try and put you in touch with one of these trustworthy individuals to be able to connect with them. So want to conclude with just a mention that now, if you are actively giving your offering, if it's not pre-set up and pre-recorded, now is a time when you could do that. If that's part of your Sunday morning kind of worship rhythm, which is beautiful, which is wonderful, now would be time to do that. Just want to say thank you all to this community for your continued support and your generosity during this COVID season. As you might have noticed in our weekly email this past week, that giving has remained pretty constant during this time of great upheaval. And that's a testament to God, his provision, but also to your faithfulness as the people of God and as the family of God. So just want to say thank you for that.